and why folks should keep listening. There is a lot happening right now in the US. We're leading up to an election cycle. It can feel very overwhelming. It can feel like a lot. And that's exactly why we created Legislative Llama to just figure out what are those bite-sized pieces of action that you can take to really make a difference, and then also feel like you're more, that you have a stake that you could really make an impact in your own community. So keep on listening, and you can figure out what are those things that you may not know about that you can really move the dial on the issues that matter the most to you.
Welcome, changemakers, to Voices of Impact, where we burst through the bubbles of indifference and shine a light on the pressing issues shaping our world. I'm your host, Audrina, and each week we bring you inspiring stories from the front lines of change. We'll meet the incredible founders of nonprofits who are tirelessly working to solve the challenges that matter most. Through their voices, we awaken to the realities around us, inspire social responsibility, and empower you to take action, whether it's by volunteering, donating, or simply spreading the word. Together, let's build a more compassionate and engaged world. Tune in and be part of the change. It starts right now. Hey, changemakers, Audrina here. You are listening to Voices of Impact, and today I am with the amazing founder and CEO of Legislative Llama, Marielle Villar Martiney.
Thanks so much for having me on. Really excited to be here.
Happy to. I'm excited to talk about this. This is the first dive into this space, which I want you to go ahead and kick us off with who you are, what's your mission, and why should people keep listening?
I'm a proud Boricua. That means Puerto Rican. I was born in the Bronx and now live in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I come from a background of organizing and advocacy, nonprofits, and am finding myself in the civic tech space because we need more civic tech that speaks to values of social and environmental justice that are organized around a nonprofit model that means protecting your data, your users' data, your privacy, your security, and supporting the little guys, supporting grassroots organizations, who can't afford to pay a lot of money for tech. We can't gatekeep things like innovation and data and tech away from the folks who are on the ground doing the work. So that's a bit of who I am, what I do. So the mission of Legislative Llama is to create joyful civic tech that activates, empowers, and educates Gen Z and Millennials for social and environmental justice. And we do this through leveraging artificial intelligence and making sure that the tech that we create is something that anyone can use, is accessible, and ultimately we're here to protect our democracy, communities, and planet. And why folks should keep listening. There is a lot happening right now in the US. We're leading up to an election cycle. It can feel very overwhelming. It can feel like a lot. And that's exactly why we created Legislative Llama to just figure out what are those bite-sized pieces of action that you can take to really make a difference, and then also feel like you're more, that you have a stake that you could really make an impact in your own community. So keep on listening, and you can figure out what are those things that you may not know about that you can really move the dial on the issues that matter the most to you.
Amazing. And I think that is so huge. I will admit up front, I am probably your target market because I myself find it just overwhelming, like you said, to really dive into that space and understand all of the different policies and things that are going on. So the fact that you're making this accessible to, especially I think that millennial Gen Z generation, is huge, because that is, it's important, first of all, for us to understand what's going on and what we're actually voting for when we show up on that day, or just what's going on in our communities. So I absolutely love what you're doing. Are there certain personal experiences or maybe challenges that led you to become passionate about this?
So I've always been a civic engagement nerd ever since I was young. Always been that person in my family that people ask, hey, there's XYZ happening. What do you know about it? Who should I vote for? So I've always been that person in my circle, and I've come from, again, advocacy, policy world. What made me create Legislative Llama was in 2022, my cousin, who was a student at the University of Tennessee, she reached out to me after the Nashville shooting, and she said, with this recent shooting, what can I do? Me and all my friends want to do something, but we don't know where to start. And I realized that my cousin's not alone. I had been wanting her to, register to vote and vote for the longest time. And it was this moment that made her realize that she needs to do something. And I'm a survivor of gun violence myself. So for her to go through this and to like, I could just like feel through text the like hopelessness. I realized that, rather than wishing for civic tech that, was accessible to young people, was joyful, like made us feel like we could make a change, made us feel a little less hopeless, a little bit more empowered. It wasn't going to fall from the sky. And I had the background to build the thing. And I'm not an engineer, but I know enough and I've had enough experience in campaigns and nonprofits and organizing to, I think, really fill this critical gap. And ultimately we want to make sure that there's never another school shooting, like my cousin and no one likes her has to ever send a text message like that again.
Right. Yeah. And that's such a big thing that we continue to face over and over and over again. So I think, again, making that information accessible to people who wouldn't have previously looked in to what can I actually do in this situation, I think will hopefully be the change that we need for people to get out there and take action and start learning. And now I looked at your site and Legislative Llama, and it is so fun and unique and different. Can you talk us through a little bit about what it looks like to use Legislative Llama?
Yes. So first and foremost, it's directly through your phone. No apps to download, no passwords to remember. When you sign up, we will never send you an email. You don't have to worry about, spam to your inbox. We really want to make sure that it is as easy for young people to use as possible. You log in through your phone number. There's two-factor authentication to make sure you are who you say you are. And when you sign up, you pick the 1 to 3 issues that are most important to you, because we really believe that when you're using our platform to send messages to your elected officials, that you're building a relationship with them, and you want your elected official to know you as, the gun violence prevention person. You want your elected official to know you as the climate environmental justice person. And when we wind up advocating for all the issues, it kind of, it lessens our individual impact. So we make you pick, what is most important for you. And we have a variety of issue areas all aligned with social and environmental justice. And then we ask you demographics questions, because when you are creating your message to your elected official, we take that information, we take your occupation, we take your gender, and we use that with our AI platform to create messages that really try and like reflect your voice as close as we can. And then we serve up what we call a little bit of your political tea. So publicly available information, but some of it might surprise you if you're not a political insider, because we believe that, knowledge is something that everyone should have. If there's a particular lobbyist that's trying to influence your decision maker and they pay them $1.4 million, you should know that, especially if it winds up swaying a vote. So we serve up your daily dose of political action and tea.
It's a different way of approaching it. And I think that you are doing such a good job with connecting, like we've said, to that younger generation who, like me hearing that I'm going to get some politics tea actually makes me want to get out there and sign up and see what I've not been paying attention to necessarily, so that I can get involved. And I think for any of our change makers who are listening, you will likely feel the same way and see the power in understanding all of the things going on around us. And then I love what you said about not overwhelming and advocating for too many things, because like you said, it can get lost. If you're like, I want to do this and I want to do this and I want to do that, it can get overwhelming and you're not really going to make an impact anywhere because you're going to spread too thin. So being able to just focus in on those few pieces that really light you up and that you're fired up about and want to get involved in, I think is very cool.
Exactly. And for your change makers in New York, we have like 8 or so issue areas. And as we grow, we'll then be expanding to other states. And separately, we're also launching gamified, joyful, fun learning modules. And that's something that will be available in all states to learn about how your government works, who your elected officials are, and really, really importantly, what are the ballot initiatives that you can vote on in November.
How would you say the work you're doing has impacted who you are today?
Besides from stressed,
stressed
and not enough sleep, I actually think it's It's the opposite of who I am impacts the work that I do
Mm,
because I'm creating this tech because my life has been impacted by from these issues from gun violence. My mom was a public school teacher growing up. My dad, after 9/11, was deployed. I've worked
wow.
in campaigns and I've worked in nonprofits. So I just feel like my lived experiences, personal and work, has just brought me to creating Legislative Llama. And I think
Yeah.
the values that I grew up with and the values that I developed as an adult are reflected in the platform. So you know, all the moments in my career and life have made it possible for me to do what I'm doing now.
That makes perfect sense. And what an experience that you've had, like you said, from childhood up until now, being impacted by so many of these things that take place in that space. So it makes perfect sense that you've ended up exactly where you have. What would you say you've learned about yourself from this journey?
I've learned that my natural inclination is to go, and this sounds so cheesy, but to go to where I can make the most impact. Like, I
Mhm.
want to say every other week, someone tells me, oh, I know about the civic engagement app. And the first thing I think of is, oh my gosh, has someone cracked this nut and is doing it better than us? And I can, partner with them, support them, pass off all of our work to make sure that we're not doing redundant efforts. And then when I look into the other civic tech, it's usually like, no. So, I'm keep doing the thing. That sort of
Yeah.
mentality, during, I led COVID recovery work in lower Manhattan. I shipped off to rural Pennsylvania to run on a to run a campaign. Every time I'm presented with a new opportunity, I have to make a choice. The question I ask myself is, where can I make the most impact?
Yeah.
And, I think that's the question that is really my personal North Star. And, why with Legislative Llama, we're also focusing on things like ballot initiatives at the state level because very few people know about that. And, that's by design. The language around ballot initiatives is sometimes so convoluted to make you vote the opposite way that you think you're voting. And it's not necessarily sexy, but it is so critically important. So again, like, we're focusing on voter registration, we're focusing on advocacy, and we're really focusing on these ballot initiatives because that's where I believe this cycle we can make the most impact.
Do your policies and the things that you're putting forth and advocating for, do they lean one way or another versus like Republican, Democrat, centrist? Yeah.
Yeah,
So would you say that you lean one way or another, or are you guys completely neutral and just putting the information in front of your users?
we do take a stand. We are for social and environmental justice. It's not me and my team picking and choosing what are the policies that are on our platform that we're pushing for. It's we have relationships with values aligned grassroots organizations, people who have been doing the work for decades and know their community, they know the need. And we say, you do incredible work. We see you, we've probably worked with you in the past in previous jobs. What are your legislative priorities? What are your budget items that you're trying to get passed in the budget? And that is what we elevate and that's what we support in the platform. One of the reasons why we're a llama is one, everyone loves llamas. We're trying to be fun and joyful. And two, we need to get out of this red, blue, donkey, elephant binary. So we aren't affiliated. Also, we're a nonprofit. We're a nonprofit. So, we cannot be affiliated with any party. That's just legally. But philosophically, we very much view ourselves as being aligned to values and not aligned to any party. Now, there are parties and there are candidates that are more aligned to those values. But you will not hear us say, we're supporting, this party blank check.
Got it. I love that you use the llama in that sense to stand out and say, look, we are neither. We are value aligned and just staying true to who you guys are. And you're right. Who doesn't love llamas? They are so cute. What has been the most challenging part of your journey and how have you pushed through?
The most challenging part of my journey right now is if you asked me a year ago that I would be a startup founder, I would have laughed. I never saw this for myself. And I think that makes me a stronger founder and that I have to lean into what I don't know. I have to lean
Mm-hmm.
into being really humble and asking for help. It's difficult being in the tech space. it's not the most values aligned ecosystem. I'm very lucky that I'm a part of the Columbia Startup Lab, and there are phenomenal founders, and it's a really wonderful space to be in. But it can be, I think, very isolating to be in the startup tech ecosystem and have your first priority not to be for profit. Like, very literally, like, you're burning the candle at both ends, not to IPO and make $1 billion, but
Right.
to activate people in civics and policy. It's very, very different.
Yeah.
So pushing through is just like going back to that question of where can I make the most impact, and it's doing this. But it can be quite lonely.
It's such a hard thing, but I think you said some really key things there of it also makes you a stronger founder because you didn't think that you would end up here. So you're much more aware. There's no ego involved. You're able to learn and grow from those things. So shifting here a little bit, what actions can people take within their own communities to support the cause that you advocate for?
I love that question because no matter where you are, there are actions. Civics education in this country has just been gutted. So very often we don't know what we don't know. And that is particularly true at the state and local level. So things that people can do, starting now is many community boards, many town halls, those public meetings are going to start again soon. And you'll be surprised how few people show up. You'll have folks like me who are big civic nerds, but these are publicly available, publicly accessible forums for your concerns to be heard. And most people don't even know that they exist. That is a great way to show up and just learn, be a fly on the wall, listen to what are the issues that are being brought up in those town halls, in those community board meetings. Fast forwarding to November, this is a really important election, but it's not just president. Very often, especially for young people, we don't vote down ballot. We don't vote for those ballot initiatives. And there are ballot initiatives that, the state might go 10 points for one presidential candidate, but the ballot initiative will pass or fail by 1 to 2 percentage points.
Wow.
So, yeah. And I don't think people realize that. Florida, the last presidential election, passed things like minimum wage, reproductive healthcare is on the ballot in Florida, and it can go, 10 points for Trump or 10 points for Kamala, but that ballot initiative, it's not going to go 10 points for Kamala, but that ballot initiative could pass or fail by a really, really thin margin. So, you could start at that really local level, show up, get to know, your elected officials, your council members, and then, fast forward to November, go many steps beyond the top of the ticket and look at who's your state representative. If you get, and this is, Legislative Llama's premise, if you get you and a dozen friends emailing your state representative or your local townsperson on the same issue, I guarantee you they're going to respond if they're worth their salt as an elected official, because that's how few people reach out to the really local folks.
Interesting. I had no idea that was the case. And again, this is all part of Voices of Impact. I want to burst the bubbles that we all live in a day-to-day basis, myself included. I very much have stayed so sheltered from a lot of the things that you've been talking about. So even just sitting here listening to you, learning from you has been such an eye-opener for me. And I hope that it is for everyone listening as well. And really that push for us to get out of our bubbles and go get involved and understand the real impact that this is having on us in our day-to-day lives too. What volunteer opportunities do you have at Legislative Llama?
So since we are a tech company, anyone who is, believes in our mission and is values aligned, who could support with pro bono tech hours, as coders, that's always very much appreciated. We also have an incredible opportunity for folks who want to do research in their own states. In my team, we have phenomenal relationships and networks in a couple of states, not all 50. So for instance, if you're from Colorado, that's a state that me and my team don't have direct relationships with. And you might know folks, you might know, community leader, you might know tenant organizations, you might know some great nonprofits, or you can do research on it, based on where you live. Who do you know? Talk to folks. Really putting together a database of incredible organizations throughout all 50 states, but we can't do that alone. So there's research, there's, reaching out to your network, talking to your neighbors, see what they know. And then, of course, anyone with engineering tech chops will be in touch.
Amazing. For our change makers who might want to support you financially, what does a donation to your organization help achieve?
So technically, there's two organizations. There's Legislative Llama, which is a 501c4, and that allows us to take more direct action on advocacy and lobbying. And so when you donate to the 501c4, that allows us to build our tech and do that advocacy research. It allows us to help you take a position. And we can focus all of our energies on pushing forward legislation and, importantly, holding our elected officials accountable. It's not enough just to get an answer from them. We want to, we continue asking them and checking in on them. So it's helping us build that tech that generates the messages, that sends the messages, that supports the database of all the issues, of all the actions where we take a position on. And then there's Legislative Llama Facts, which is the 501c3. And that is putting together the joyful, gamified ways of learning about how your government works, about, again, what's at stake this November, about the history of your community. A lot of young people, I think, are new to, they went to college, they're in a new area, or maybe after college you moved. And, we want to make sure that our users are aware of the community history and the groups that are doing the great work. So when you donate to Legislative Llama Facts, that supports that research and then the development of fun, impactful ways about learning about that information. We had a Schoolhouse Rock when I was a kid. So what would be the Schoolhouse Rock version on your phone, for this next generation? That's what we're building with Legislative Llama Facts.
So cool. What do you hope to achieve in the next few years with Legislative Llama?
We are in all 50 states and all the territories, as well as Washington, D.C. They very frequently get forgotten about. That we are the trusted organization for young people to go to learn about the amazing groups that are doing the work in their area, to learn about the history of their communities, and to learn more about what are the issues that are impacting them. And that through our tech, one, that we have extremely secure and private tech. We never sell user data, and that is something that we'll still be doing, a decade plus in the future. But that we've really been pushing the boundaries on what civic tech looks like. That it is for the people. It is always for those grassroots organizers and for individuals, and that we keep pushing the envelope for making something that, I'll be honest, can be really boring for most people, but making it fun and joyful. And that takes investment in figuring out, okay, what are the best ways to make this, again, joy. I keep saying the word joy, but we have to bring that back into what everyday citizenship looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I know that you keep mentioning joy, but I also think that it makes it so much easier to get bought in to a new cause, a new mission, whatever it might be, if they feel that when they're on the platform and using it. So it makes perfect sense that you want to emphasize that. And I do think you're doing it, because literally I got onto your site and I started smiling and I was like, this is so cool. It makes me want to get involved. So for those of you listening, definitely go check out her site. I'm going to have it linked below. But if you could inspire our change makers to take one action today that would make a difference, what would it be?
Well, besides from signing up for Legislative Llama, go to your state representative, find their email, and just send a note saying, hi, this is my name, I'm one of your constituents, and these are the issues I care about. That's it. That's all you have to say. It may be something like, and I would love to know your thoughts. It's that simple. And again, if your elected official is worth their salt, they or a staff member will reply back. But it should be we should feel comfortable sending an introductory email like that. Just like you would, you're new to a workplace and you're introducing yourself to colleagues, or to neighbors. Like at the end of the day, we're the ones that our elected official are accountable to, like we're their bosses. They should know us. And more importantly, they should know what we care about. So, send that email. You don't have to be a subject matter expert. If it's what you care about, that is enough. So, hey, my name's this. I'm a constituent. I've lived here for X amount of years, and these are the issues I care about. What do you think? Thanks so much for your time. That's it. 3 sentences, 2 sentences.
Easy enough. And I think something that every single person should do. And in fact, I am going to go ahead and do that by end of day today. I will have that email out. And I think all of us should do the same because it's not asking that much. It's not a huge time requirement, but it can make a huge difference.
One thing I want to stress is that you do not need to be an expert to reach out. I don't want that, I don't know about XYZ holding anyone back, because that is by design. Politics and civics, I think, are made boring and very abstract and very complicated to keep people, especially young people and people of color, out, to be exclusionary. So if you catch yourself thinking, oh, but I don't know XYZ, like that is okay, because again, 90+% of people, honestly, probably more like 95+% of people are in this same exact boat. So like, let's not let that keep anyone from like learning more and taking an action that will impact their community and also make you feel like you have a stake in our democracy. You have ownership over the future and not just letting someone else handle that.
So true. And such an amazing thing to point out, because I myself was like, I don't know much of anything. And like, while I've been talking to you, I've been like, shoot, like I just kind of highlighted how much I am unaware right now. So just hearing you say that it's okay and that majority of people are in that situation, I think makes it feel so much more attainable and approachable to then get involved. And it doesn't matter if you don't know these things. Just what matters is that you're taking the action to start to learn and to start to get involved. So final question for you, where can people find you and support Legislative Llama?
So go to legislativellama.org and you could find all of our information there. There's a donate link. The first page you see is where you sign up, and you sign up by inputting your cell phone number. Oh, we also have an Instagram, and the handle is Legislative Llama.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here, taking the time to chat with us, teaching me a whole lot, and bursting those bubbles and getting people involved. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Changemakers, for tuning in to Voices of Impact. You've just heard about another amazing cause, and it's time to turn that inspiration into action. Whether it's volunteering your time, donating to a cause, or simply sharing what you've learned, every action counts. Your involvement helps to build stronger communities and a better world. And for those of you who want to make an even bigger impact, we have a special opportunity. If you or your company would like to sponsor Voices of Impact, not only will you be supporting this platform, but a portion of your sponsorship will be donated each month to one of the incredible nonprofits that we've featured. Your support will help these organizations continue their vital work, extending their reach of their impact even further. Join us in making a difference. Visit at Voices of Impact by Audrina on Instagram to learn more about sponsorship opportunities, and together, let's continue to spark change. Until next time, Changemakers, let's keep the momentum going. Subscribe now and join the movement.